Greg here. Today's talk looks at something called liquefaction and the earthquake threat for the Fremont Tesla factory. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Bonjour and be Gates. Today's talk is focused on what I want to call the earthquake threat from, I'm going to call it San Andreas that Tesla faces. It turns out that the Fremont factory of Tesla sits within 10 miles of 3 different fault lines in Fremont, California. The thumbnail I've chosen is to show you exactly how these fault lines hit the factory. And the video I'm showing behind is provided by the U.S. Geological Service, and it shows the impact of the 1906 earthquake, which was a 7.9, and how it destroyed sort of huge numbers of buildings at the epicenter in San Francisco, but that the power of that quake being so big spread throughout and did huge damage to the Bay Area. I actually went to Stanford, and Stanford's 30 miles maybe from San Francisco where the epicenter was, and most of the buildings on campus were destroyed. So, and it's another 10 or 15 miles to get to Fremont from there, so it gives you a flavor for how powerful these earthquakes can be and how they can affect things. So you have an excellent question. Why are we bringing this up with Tesla? Well, one of the things I've been continuously watching for and encouraging Tesla to consider is the fact that there's no effort right now from Tesla to have a secondary manufacturing facility that's up and running in case there's some kind of earthquake or other natural disaster. So I'm hopeful that this video is reviewed as part of the regular press reviews that's required by law, because the fact of the matter is that there's a perfect empty piece of dirt next to the gigafactory where Tesla could construct a operating space that would allow them to build and manage a facility in case there's an earthquake that hits. So I'm kind of shocked that they haven't done this, but as you know, Tesla's 80% vertically integrated, which means that 80% of what they make in a car, they build themselves. While the Gigafactory is doing drivetrains and the battery, all the rest of it's being done in the Fremont plant. And if the Fremont plant gets hit by earthquake, or the Bay Area gets hit by Loma Prieta was another earthquake that hit in 1989. I think it was about a 6.5, and it shut down everything in the Bay Area for 1 or 2 months. If we got a 1906 quality earthquake, which is due in that area within the next 5 to 10 years, the factory could be down for between 6 months and a year. And so by Tesla not having a secondary operating spot to produce from, I don't think it'll put the company out of business because they'll figure out how to move plant and equipment someplace else and produce. But I think it would put a major monkey wrench in the future and development of the company. So I'm hopeful that this video finds some ears that, allow them to really think through what they're doing in terms of location of maybe a secondary, even a tertiary manufacturing facility. This is actually going to get taken care of, I think, big time over the next 2 or 3 years, because there is discussion of finding another production facility location, possibly Japan, possibly Europe, and that way there'll be another place producing that would make up for an earthquake disaster situation. But earthquakes are weird because I've lived in California for 30 years, and every 2 or 3 times a year there's a minor earthquake, a 3 to 5, It's of little difficulties. Most of the buildings that Tesla has in place right now either have weathered some, so they're earthquake ready already in terms of the main building, or the new ones being built are built to earthquake code. So what I did was yesterday I called a friend, mentor, who lives in Fremont in the hills above the Tesla factory. And he said to me, Greg, you're absolutely right. The problem we have is that I live on a hill that's compacted dirt. So if a quake hits, it'll rock and roll, but we're fine. Where Tesla is located, it's not built on solid ground. You have a situation there where it's mostly mud and dirt. So as soon as an earthquake hits and it's big, the shaking, etc., is going to destroy that factory, and the whole thing's going to have to be rebuilt. So I kind of mention this because I think that it's, there are other sort of minor nuisances that are being brought up about who and what Tesla is about and things that might occur. But one of them that I'm not seeing Tesla execute a strategic plan for is, what do you do if a big earthquake hits the Bay Area? And the answer, I think, temporarily, because you already have the land, is to just put up a shell. If you do the grading and put up a shell building next to the gigafactory, it's a perfect setting for storage temporarily. And if there's a catastrophe that occurs, you could easily then retrofit that building for production of vehicles until you can figure out a more long-term solution, including whether or not to build again in the Bay Area, because you could easily sell that property for huge dollars and move everything to a space that gives you room to stretch out and grow. This also brings up a sort of a big question that I've been wondering about for quite a while, and that is, every time I hear about 5,000 vehicles a week, I'm thinking to myself, wow, how is that going to work? And the reason I say that is that as you look at the maps relative to Tesla, and I'm going to include one at the end as well as just after our intro, what you'll notice is that Tesla is bordered by a lot of housing and other major buildings. So what this does is creates an environment where it's almost impossible to get large manufacturing activity done because you're constrained by heavily built out cities. If you look at all the mega, like GM, all the major manufacturers, they've got plants spread throughout fairly low density areas so that they can stretch out and have test tracks and all that stuff. So I think if Tesla did get hit with an earthquake of some sort, some nature like that, it might be in their best interest to pick a spot that allows them to stretch out, meaning a mile in each direction from anybody, and now you can build as many buildings as you want, as fast as you want, to meet needs. The question is, where would they put that place? And the answer, a quickie answer, is just put it next to the gigafactory, because, it's right there, and you've already paid for the land, you've got the highway to it, it's a smooth process in terms of getting stuff done. I actually don't think, for a quickie factory, I think it makes sense. For something that's really logical, I actually think the best city for them to consider building this in is a place called Salt Lake City, Utah. And the reason is that Salt Lake City to Reno, where the gigafactory is a 5-hour drive on pretty much flat land. The other reason to do this is that Salt Lake City / Provo, that area, has a lot of buildable land. It's easy access to the gigafactory by train or by truck. It has a large population of very well-educated people. It's actually the Mormon capital of America. And it also has other benefits like plenty of housing. One of the problems they're having in Reno right now is as new employees are being hired, Tesla is actually sort of doubling the growth rate of the city. So they're running out of potential employees for Tesla. They're running out of housing, etc. So I think that, Salt Lake would be an awesome location to expand Tesla's activities in, especially if it's just on a contingency basis, because it just sets up well with their international airport that goes anywhere in the world quickly, and all the other features I just talked about. I think it's a great place for them to consider expanding to. So I want to thank you for taking time out to visit with us today. Again, this is all about, has the management team of Tesla considered the earthquake risk of San Andreas that lurks within 2 or 3 miles of the plant, and does that contingency allow the company to get back up and operating in 30 or 45 days if a big quake hits? And right now, from what I'm seeing, they're way over concentrated, and when you combine how vertically integrated they are and the concentration of manufacturing and production, I just think it puts the company in huge risk of being shut down for 1 or 2 years that it might take to rebuild all of those factories if a big quake hit. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Tschüss, macht's gut, au revoir, lehitraot, choda hafez. Please like and subscribe, and have a great day.